If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades...
Tragedy, it's something that is affecting people of all classes, of all backgrounds. It doesn't matter if your relatives are well-to-do or not.
It's most likely to be a highly infectious virus.
Is linked back to this now shuttered animal and seafood market in Wuhan. U.S. health officials are concerned this rapid spread could mimic the massive SARS outbreak.
New video sent to CBS News claims to show hospital staff wearing protective gear, and that is protective gear.
This is not the time to focus on what word we use.
Not missiles, but microbes.
Let's take a thought experiment. Assume that these dominoes are people, and they are not practicing social distancing. So if one of them falls, then all of them fall down. Now, let's try to place them from a safe distance from one another. Now as we can see, if one falls, the others are safe. What is the math behind the rapid spread of disease? For any contagious diseases, this growth is mostly exponential, and COVID is one of them. Let's take a look at this thought experiment. If a chessboard were to have wheat placed upon each square such that 1 grain were placed on the first square, 2 on the second, 4 on the third, and so on, doubling the number of grains on each subsequent square, how many grains of wheat would be on the chessboard at the end? While the answer at first glance might seem small, what you're adding is exponential values. So the total number of grains would be equivalent to 2 raised to 0 plus 2 raised to 1 all the way to 2 raised to 63, because there are 64 squares. And the answer is a 20-digit number. This is the power of exponents. Its growth is so fast that our minds cannot grasp it. This is the situation in India and how exponentially it is growing. We all know how COVID-19 spread a massive outbreak across the whole world. The World Health Organization declared the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern on 30th January 2020 and a pandemic on the 11th March. But the question is it the first time? No, it's not. Pandemics have been around for a long time. The Black Death, also known as the Plague, swept across Europe in the 14th century. Black Death was caused by the Yersinia pestis bacterium. The plague was carried by fleas that usually traveled on rats and jumped off to other mammals when the rat died. It most likely first appeared in humans in Mongolia around 1320, although recent research suggests it may have existed thousands of years earlier in Europe. Usually, people who came down with the plague first complained of headaches, fever, and chills. Later, a pneumonic form of the plague developed that was less common but killed 95% of the people who contracted it. The doctor who saved people by hand washing. There was a Hungarian doctor named Ignaz Semmelweis. Semmelweis wanted to figure out why so many women in maternity wards were dying from puerperal fever, commonly known as childbed fever. He studied 2 maternity wards in the hospital, and he did some investigation to discover that women in the clinic staffed by doctors and medical students died at a rate nearly 5 times higher. And the big difference between the doctor's ward and the midwife's ward is that the doctors were doing autopsies, while the midwives were not. So Semmelweis hypothesized that there were cadaverous particles, little pieces of corpse, that students were getting on their hands from the cadavers that they dissected. And when they delivered the babies, these particles would get inside the women who would develop a disease and die. So he ordered his medical staff to start cleaning their hands and instruments, not just with soap, but with a chlorine solution. Chlorine, as we know today, is about the best disinfectant there is. What Semmelweis had discovered is something that still holds true today. Hand washing is one of the most important tools in public health. It can keep kids from getting the flu, prevent the spread of disease, and keep infections at bay. Florence Nightingale was a British nurse and a statistician. As she grew up, she decided that she wanted to help the sick and injured and wanted to become a nurse. When war broke out in the Crimea region in 1854, the government expected it to last several months. It actually lasted 2 years. They were not ready for how many soldiers would be injured, and this was one of the reasons why the hospitals were in such a bad state. To ensure that the wounded were kept clean and fed well, Florence Nightingale set up laundries to wash linen and clothing and kitchens to cook food. Florence Nightingale has been frequently described as the lady with the lamp. She became the first female member of the Royal Statistical Society in 1858. This certainly is not the last pandemic we face, but we can ensure that future pandemics are not so devastating. Many people assume that present medical science can treat anything. Just pop a pill and you're cured. The feeling of invincibility riding on the back of arrogance that humans have the ability to treat anything might make future pandemics worse. We urge you to take standard precautions. Take care of yourselves and your family. We hope we all get out of this.